Potentially tricky game, I thought, last weekend, and you came through it with flying colours, really.
It was a tricky game. It was, I don't know, sometimes you look at games before and for some reason you get a feel for the opposition, you get a feel for what you did in the previous game and all that. And with that in mind, we're going into Friday's game on the back of a 1-0 defeat by them, which I still haven't worked out how we lost that game. However, coming into that game, I can't say we're in the form that we're in at this moment in time. I've said this to the players today. I'm not having the time of my life as a manager, but I'm actually having a really good feel about the changing room. First and foremost, the fact that if you look at it, I think the best kind of change rooms are self-managing. And does that mean to say that the manager doesn't need to be there? No, he only needs to be there when he's drawn upon. And at this moment in time, that's the case. They're self-managing, they're handling themselves, they're handling the situation. The banter between each of the players, each other, is really, really good. I love being in amongst them. But they probably change when a manager walks in the change room. That's normal. So you're never ever going to get what you had when you were a player. But at the same time, I just managed to get on the end of one or two of the conversations, and it's a good place, the change room, it has to be said. But it counts for nothing because you've got the opposition in front of you and you've still got to try and plan to beat them. And Rushall Olympic, we've got inside information if we need it with Seb and Kobe being there on loan. Do you need inside information, or do you just look at the league table and see where they've been for the majority of the season? It must have been a long, old, hard season for the manager and his backroom staff and the players in particular. They're banging their heads against the brick wall trying to survive, and then all of a sudden you're now relegated. That's the danger as far as I'm concerned. You're looking at a team that might just relax and play, and we know what that looks like. We've sampled it here at Agbra when they weren't relaxed, but they were certainly playing in a style that caused us one or two issues. But in the vein of form that we're in, Trev, I would fully expect us to not just dismiss them. I'm just saying I think we'd go into the game fully prepared for what they can throw at us, but more importantly, we need to be at our best, and if we are at our best, I think there's only one result.
You touched on it there, but there is a danger now. They are effectively relegated. They are relegated for next season. They can relax and just play now, can't they, really?
They can. And as you well know, you always want, as a manager, you always want your players to relax because, that's the nature of the beast. But at the same time, you want that excitement as well. You want that the interest at the top end of the division. You want the interest in promotion, and the crowd give you that. Hopefully the supporters that we've had all season away from home, and it's not too far to go this time. I mean, we can boast sometimes great support long distances, but this is only a short hop across the borders, if you like, wherever it is near Walsall, and hopefully we'll have a good old following that will be well entertained by what we're going to throw at them. It's AstroTurf again, so it's one of them where if we're willing to get the ball down and play and be on the front foot and be positive and be proactive with regards to trying to win the game, I think we should have enough.
It's interesting when you said that the dressing room basically is self-managing, I think, to use your expression. I mean, clearly it hasn't been an issue over the last few weeks. You've been winning every week you've been in there. But yeah. Does that include, if things aren't going well at half-time, do the players kind of get into each other?
To a certain extent, yes, but there is always going to be that respect for each other. I remember being a player myself, and I was a loudmouth as a captain of the club. But every so often, the manager comes across you, and he cuts across what you're trying to say and probably disagrees in it, but it's in a respectful manner to a certain extent. I've got some big players in there, all relatively speaking. Mari Morgan Smith's known his way around change rooms, Ashley Hemmings, Kyle Morrison, Christian Dibble. I was going to say Andy Dibble, but Christian Dibble, chip off the oval block. So they've been round the block a wee bit, and they know what a good change room looks like, and more importantly smells like. In our change room at the moment, it's just breathing, it's breathing life into the club, it's breathing life into me, if you like. Knowing full well that what I'm asking them to do, and it's not just about winning a game, it's how we win the game, and asking them to do certain things, and they're doing it to the best of their ability, and that's the self-managing part. They still need pointing in the right direction, as we all did as players. Sometimes the wheels come off, sometimes you're moving in the wrong direction and you need to check yourself, or the manager just does that. That's the kind of self-management that I'm talking about. But it's a pleasure to be involved with them, because they are trying to, as a group, we are trying to play football the right way. I was watching Arsenal last night, and many a time we've spoken about Premier League football and how the styles of football and certainly the way football's being played has changed over the years. But I watched the Arsenal Real Madrid game, and if you freeze going to the Bernabeu, you're in massive trouble. One thing you have to control is your emotions, and I think that's what we are doing at the moment. In the last 10, 11 games where, we've been in this good vein of form, we've controlled our emotions. If we couldn't find a way in the first 15, 20 minutes, we did eventually find a way, and the majority of the time we found a way to win, not just get a point out of the game. But we've fallen foul a couple of times. The draw at Leamington springs to mind. We've drawn a couple of games where at Buxton we huffed and puffed for probably 60, 70 minutes in that game, and then made a couple of changes tactically, and then go a goal behind, and they had the proverbials, the gonads as it were, to get the equaliser, and should have got the winner that day. But that's been the tale of our season so far. But I think the players have got to understand that so far, 43 games gone, we know what our identity is, and that's the most important part. You're going into games knowing full well what you can achieve if you're on your A game, and for the last 10, 11 games we have been.
You've clearly got the ability within the squad. If they're not fit by now, they're never going to be fit at this stage of the season, are they really? It's the bit between the ears now, isn't it? It's the psychology of it over the last 3 games, really.
Excellent, yeah, very much so. It's the players you're looking around the change room to see who's been there. And what I mean by being there, it doesn't matter what level, it's been there to get that change room over the line. If there's enough of them around your change room, the ones that haven't been there are sort of, they're hanging on to their shirt tails, as it were. But there is a good group, there is a good mix of experienced lads and inexperienced lads that are looking to end the season with the same goal. But that's what we started out with. We started out with our highs and lows. We're having a massive high at this moment in time with 3 games to go, and we just need to keep it going.
There's no sort of one game that defines or changes the season, but I've seen quite a bit of it this season, and I remember I went to Needham Market when you went down there, and it may well have been happening for several games before, but that was the game I thought, the difference for Harriers today is they're getting the ball in early, the quality crosses going in early. Joe Folks it was that day, but I know David Worrell's done it since, obviously, and Kevin Richards has done it, and that for me made a huge difference to Harriers. Again,
I'm listening to some of the Premier League pundits that talk about say for instance an Arsenal team or a Liverpool team, or these are at the top of the Premier League, and they're sort of almost shocked that they're crossing the ball, and I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. As a fullback, my job was to stop a cross. As a fullback, the opposite side, my job was to defend me back post. But if the ball's coming into your 6-yard box, that's the danger area. And the quality that it comes in with, you've just hit the nail on the head with Joe Folks and Rhys Devine, and more importantly, just of late, Dave Worrell. There's almost an acceptance that Dave's going to get a cross in. I haven't seen a fullback even half attempt to stop him from crossing, but when they do, he pulls it back on his left foot and puts it in with his equal amount of quality as what he's doing with his right foot. Listen, for me it's basics. That for me is a basic, fundamental quality of a wide player, and a fundamental quality of a fullback is to try and stop it. If they can't stop it, then your strikers are going to be on the move because they know it's coming in.
I appreciate every football manager I've ever spoken to always says it's 1 game at a time, but you've got 3 games left. 2 of those clubs you can argue there's not a lot riding on it, Rushall and Southport. Monday there could be rocket here, because there could be plenty riding on it for both sides, really.
We hope it's rocking because we've beaten Rushall Olympics. It's as simple as it gets, and I know when you said 1 at a time, if we get 3 points, we're still in the hunt. And what the hunt is to finish first, it's not to finish second in the playoffs. I think from a mathematical point of view, we're in the playoffs now, so the season will extend beyond the 46. Unless we win all 3 games and something happens where Scunthorpe's concerned. That's all we're looking at, so the 1 game at a time. We want this place rocking on Monday for sure. And the only way to do that, I think, categorically stating this 100% is winning the game against Rushall Olympics. So next game trial, that's all I can say.
The game at Hereford on Boxing Day, was that your best performance of the season?
It was one of them. But being a local derby, you can't take more pride and credit in dismissing them in no uncertain terms, certainly away from home. It was the first time I'd really seen the Kidderminster Harriers fans travel in numbers. I think we had about 750, 800 there on the day. And if I remember rightly, the quality of the goals that day were outstanding, you know. So sometimes you're not going to get that quality, you know. Sometimes it's going to have to go in off another part of your body. Obviously will remain nameless, but it is one of them where you've got to try and ask better questions as a striker. And our three strikers that day, if I remember rightly, were just different classes, as well as Brownie in the middle of the park, and it could go on and on and on because we kept a clean sheet against a good strike force as well. And when you put them moments into perspective, that's one of the big moments, not one of the big wins, that's one of the big moments, because there was pressure on that game. It's Boxing Day. You know, you're wondering whether your players are prepared properly, because Christmas is just around the corner, and have they overeaten, have they over celebrated, have they over prepared or under prepared. But then when that quality came along, I thought, wow, if we're capable of that in the heated moments, then we've got a chance. And now we're here with 3 games to go.
Zach Brown didn't half set the tone that day, did he, with a thumping goal, the first one?
Fantastic goal, and I think Amari didn't do too bad with his third, but in the middle of it was Toby Obidei, and that wasn't a bad goal neither. And I think at the time, I think Mazkuya had gone down with a little bit of an illness or an injury, and we missed him out for probably 3 or 4 games. And it could be something that we're looking at again. Maz has reported in with something yesterday, so didn't train. So it might be a case of there's an open space for somebody, you know, one open space, and at this moment in time, in the form that we're in, people have been stepping into that. You know, I remember Toby playing instead of Rhys Devine. Now all of a sudden David Davis is playing instead of Cam Candela, you know. Joe Worrell instead of Joe Worrell, I've said it again, Joe Fawkes fell by the wayside and Dave Worrell came in. So them replacements have actually grabbed the shirt. But Toby did that day against, you know, I can't remember the team, but when Rhys Devine fell by the wayside, Toby steps up and scores a goal, and then Rhys Devine came back, I gave him his shirt back, so Toby's got a point to prove again. But these are challenges as a manager that I don't take for granted. That's the self-managing part of it, when the players that are not playing, when they're pushing the manager for to be in the team, that is heaven for me as a manager. And that is the self-managing part that I'm talking about at the start of the interview.
Mazkuya then is one doubt, obviously. How are you doing besides him?
The only one. Cam Candela trained today full, so I've got a bit of a problem, bit of an issue where that's concerned. Do I put Cam in when the team's keeping clean sheets, when the team's winning games of football? Do I change the system? Do I change the personnel in the system? But with 2 games in short space of time, people breathing down my neck, as it were, for a push for a place. If they're not playing on Friday, they might have a chance of playing on Monday. It just depends on how we play tomorrow.
A final one from me, Phil. How much of it now is the message to the players? We can only control what we can control. There's no point in worrying what's going on at Kings Lynn, for example, tomorrow.
You sound like a manager, Trev. Absolutely bang on. We can't control Kings Lynn. We've been on the end of a whipping at Kings Lynn. That was the night, I believe, it was a couple of days after Peggy was born, my daughter, and I wasn't really fully focused for that game, so I held myself responsible, if you remember rightly. But at this moment in time, I'm holding myself responsible for being up there. You know, it's one of them where the players are responding to the kind of training that we're doing, to the kind of questions that they're being asked, and they're answering them big time. And if I've got that for 3 games, I'll be delighted. But as you made reference to, we can't control Scunthorpe, we can't control Brackley, we can only control us. And with 9 points to play for, why not shoot for 9?
Thank you.
You talked about players breathing down your neck and wanting an opportunity. Obviously, you brought Finn Roberts to the club with the intention of playing a part, and he wouldn't be the first player, even this season, to suffer because of the form of the players ahead of him.
Yeah.
What's his status in terms of where he's head at right
He's frustrated, Matty, and rightly so. You know, he's came to us from a league club, you know, Crewe Alexander, and he's been to this level and did very well at Chester. He's on the training ground every day, he's bouncing. I had a conversation with him, he loves football. I had a conversation with him prior to the Wolves-Spurs game last Sunday, where he was on his way to the game. He's a Spurs supporter, and the conversation was quite simply about, he's asking me, why did you bring me in? And my sales pitch was to play, of course it was, but every sales pitch from a manager is to play. But then you've got to find an opportunity for him to play. And unfortunately for him, he's walked into a wall of wins where the team hasn't changed too many times over the last 9, 10, 11 games. So with that in mind, he has to sit and be patient. And as a young man, I know what that feels like. As an older man, I can understand me and my thought process, but as a young man, I know exactly where he is. But with Maz being a doubt for tomorrow, we haven't made that decision yet. There might be a space for him on the bench, and then there might be a space for him on the field of play if something goes awry tomorrow. So with that in mind, he's just got to be patient. But bottom line, is he good enough? Absolutely.
And I guess his value is also to you in being able to push the players who aren't playing as well, but you perhaps don't see that on a Saturday.
More importantly, that, you know, I think I haven't had too many, should we call it doubters, why did I bring him in, etc., from the supporters, because we're winning. So they can't really question the fact that, you know, we're brought a player in on loan and he's not even on the bench. Why have we done that? Because bottom line is, everybody knows everybody has heard the saying competition places, but does everybody know what it means? And that means sometimes you're going to have 4 or 5 sitting in the stand, let alone on the bench. But the 4 or 5 that are sitting in the stand are chomping at the bit. You know, Paul Downing was part and parcel in the first 5 games, along with Alex Penny. That was the backbone of our team. Luke Summerfield is 3, you know, so if you go into it, everybody's contributed to a decent season so far, but we've got a little way to go.